Just following on from what the minister said, sound bites aside, what funding is there to actually genuinely looking at the evaluation of the sector review and showing that the cost savings that the minister has said has actually been delivered? Because even if I look at the pre-hearing questions, there's really no indicators. The numbers that the minister have mentioned, have they materialized?
Yeah, absolutely.
What evidence is there to suggest that?
Well, people no longer have to, for example, have a futile inspection by a council in order to operate a hairdresser. So that cost is no longer a fee for the hairdresser. It's no longer a cost for the council to employ the people. If you are in the hemp industry, you no longer have to go through the licensing process that you previously did. So you no longer face those costs as the new licensing criteria and the new regulator are bedded in for early childhood education. There'll be many compliance activities that you no longer have to carry out. If you look at medical conferences, they are happening, whereas we know that they weren't previously viable. So the evidence is all around us in the real world.
But those are business costs. The point that was being made is that there is supposed to be a net public benefit cost. Have that cost that the minister have mentioned transitioned into something that has benefited the public overall?
Well, the people that we're talking about are members of the public. The medical profession are members of the public. People who work growing hemp products and buying hemp products, they are members of the public. People who send their children to daycare, they are members of the public. People who get their hair cut and operate hairdressers, they are members of the public. I mean,
has that led to a reduction in the cost for members of public as a result of these savings from cuts, from some of the savings from regulatory removal?
Well, inevitably, if you reduce the costs on a sector, then there is a dividend, and that dividend is going to be shared partly by the people who work in the sector, partly by the people who have invested in the sector, and partly by those who are customers. The exact breakdown of those benefits, well, you know, you could argue till the cows come home exactly what the prices might have been were the costs not reduced. But I think it's reasonable to say that if you reduce a pointless rule and you reduce a cost that wasn't giving any benefit, then New Zealanders are going to be better off.
But an assumption is not the same thing as factual. Is that something that the Ministry for Regulations will at least have some understanding of in terms of some of the cuts? I see nods from the Chief Executive.
Well, I mean, he can add anything. He may have something to add, but I would have thought that most people can follow along that if you previously, as a hairdresser, had to pay $400 for an inspection that did nothing, and if you as a council previously had to employ somebody and now you don't have to, or they can do something else that's valuable to people that live under that council's jurisdiction, then that is a benefit. I think you are seeking a level of certainty that actually has already been given to you. It's in plain sight.
I'm seeking a level of genuine public benefit, but I will move on to my next supplementary question, which is around the red tape tip line, sort of what evaluation has been done to ensure that it continues to be funded in future budget?
Well, the fact that it's had enormous engagement from New Zealanders, it's had over 1,600 people get in touch, and in many cases their problems have been solved as a result of that.
So how then does the ministry justify making or investigating in non-issues that have no relevance to regulations? For example, in the investigation launched last year regarding the Ray-Ban Meta smart glasses, wasting taxpayer dollars to realize there's no regulatory barrier. In fact, the glasses haven't even been launched in New Zealand.
Well, it's very simple. We are responding to members of the public. If you would like to criticise the members of the public who submit and say that they should not be able to submit unless their submissions meet the standards of Lawrence Yunnan and the Green Party, well, that's a very interesting position for you to take, and I would encourage you to share that attitude with more members of the public in the run-up to November 7th.
No, I'm actually simply asking a question on whether the ministry is performing its function, which is the role of an MP during scrutiny week. So, but I want to check with the minister finally. My final question is, Minister, what's the difference between guidance and regulations?
I beg your pardon?
What's the difference between guidance and regulations?
I'm not aware that there's a formal definition of those, but generally speaking, a regulation is something that you're compelled to follow on pain of some sort of sanction, whereas guidance is something that is optional but advised.
Does the minister think that the guidance that the Ministry of Regulations released regarding the use of AI is sufficient to regulate the use of AI, particularly when it comes to some of the changes we're seeing of the use of AI in public service?
Let me help you. Your first question was, what's the difference between guidance and regulation, which implies that you know there's a difference. And your second question is guidance the same as regulation? But if you think about it, your first question contained the answer to your second question.
No, my second question is, does the minister think that the guidance that has been provided by his ministry is sufficient to address the regulatory gap in AI?
Well, no, because guidance is different from regulation, which you know.
Is there any move on introducing regulations on the use of AI, particularly in public services?
Well, that may well happen, but it's a question that you'd be better to direct to the Public Service Commission.